For the record, I've patched that ceiling 11 times in 14 years. Same shape, same corner, same smell of low tide, though we're 200 miles from any ocean. I want you to understand that before I tell you what I found behind the drywall in 4B last Tuesday, floating in 6 inches of standing water that should not have been there. A robe, a logbook older than the building's permit, and something that moved when my flashlight passed over it. My name is Ray Doss. I've been the superintendent at Fenwick Arms on Larkspur Street for 14 years, since Mr. Alvarez retired. You asked me to describe Unit 4B, and I want to be precise because I know how this sounds. There's a leak in that apartment. There's always been a leak in that apartment. Before I started the job, the previous super left me a folder. Work orders going back to 1971. Every single one for the same water stain on the ceiling, the same corner, northeast, above where the closet meets the bathroom wall. I've replaced that ceiling 11 times. I've replumbed the unit above it twice. I've had 3 separate contractors tell me there's no pipe within 6 feet of that spot. The stain always comes back in the same shape. Not similar. The same. I traced it once against an old Polaroid from the file. It matched to the inch. I didn't think much of it back then. The first time I saw it myself was 2014. Tenant named Mrs. Petrelli called it in. Work order 4471. I still have the number memorized. She said the water dripping from the corner smelled like the ocean. I laughed, told her probably mineral buildup in the pipes. I went up with my moisture meter, and the reading in that corner was off the scale, saturated, like the wall was a sponge just dunked. But the rest of the wall was bone dry. I cut it open expecting a slow pipe leak. Instead, I found the drywall soaked through, warm to the touch. Not hot, but warm, like bath water, like something that had just stopped being alive. When I ran my hand along the stud behind it, I found a single strand of hair caught in the wood grain, long, dark, wet. Mrs. Petrelli didn't have dark hair. She moved out 3 weeks later, didn't give notice, left half her furniture. In 2016, the board finally approved a full wall replacement. I opened it up, floor to ceiling, expecting to find the source once and for all. Instead, I found newspaper stuffed into the cavity like insulation. Yellowed, dated March of 1962. A missing persons notice. A woman named Colleen Vance, last seen in that unit, 26 years old. Someone had folded the page so her photograph faced outward, toward the room, like it had been placed there on purpose, not lost. I found 4 more notices behind different sections of that wall, spanning decades, different names, all women, all reported missing from 4B or shortly after moving out. I was on my knees pulling the last one free when I heard it, not the pipe settling, not the building creaking, a voice, low, right against the stud, like someone had their mouth pressed to the other side of the wood. It said a name, not mine. I dropped my flashlight and didn't go back in that day. Mrs. Kessler moved into 4B 8 months ago. 61, retired school teacher, kept the place spotless. I checked the tenant log, going back to the building's opening in 1958. 19 tenants total in 4B. Average stay under a year. Every single one left without formal notice. 3, including Colleen Vance, were never seen again after moving out. Nobody on the board had ever cross-referenced it before. I did, after what I found in the wall. I didn't tell Mrs. Kessler any of this. I patched the drywall clean, painted it, told her the leak was fixed. For a while it was quiet. Then at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, she called my cell, which she'd never done before. Her voice was very calm. She said, "Ray, I need you to come look at the wall. It's breathing." I asked her what she meant. She said, "Come count for yourself," and then she started counting out loud, slow, like she was timing something with her own chest. I went up around 3:40 with my flashlight and the meter. Mrs. Kessler let me in without a word and stood in the hallway watching the corner. The wall was dry to the eye, but when I put my palm flat against the paint, I felt it, a slow rise and fall, so faint I told myself It was my own pulse in my hand. The meter disagreed. It read wet, saturated, exactly like 2014, exactly like every report before it. I ran my flashlight low across the paint and saw a seam I'd painted over myself 8 months earlier. A rectangle, straight edges, the outline of a door that should not exist in an exterior wall, backed by nothing but brick and street. I found what felt like a handle under 6 coats of paint, a raised bump the size of my fist. When I touched it, it was warm, not room temperature, warm like a hand had just let go of it. I don't fully understand how I opened it. I remember pressing my thumb into that warm shape and the whole rectangle swinging inward, like it had never been sealed at all. Behind it wasn't brick. It was a room, maybe 4 feet deep, and it was full of standing water almost to my knees. The smell hit first, salt, and something underneath it sweet and wrong. My flashlight found things floating on the surface, a woman's shoe, a hairbrush, a logbook, swollen and soft, that I fished out and later dried enough to read. Entries from 3 different superintendents before me, going back to 1963, all describing this same room, this same water, always resealing it, never reporting it. The last entry, from 1998, said only, "It takes one every so often, and it always tells you when it's hungry." I heard something shift in the water behind me. Mrs. Kessler was no longer standing in the doorway. That's the part you already have on record, Detective. I called it in myself, that same night. Mrs. Kessler's robe was floating in that room when your officers arrived, along with the shoe and the brush. But no Mrs. Kessler, no sign of forced entry, nothing on the hallway camera except her walking into 4B at 11:52 p.m. and never walking out. Your team searched the hidden room and found it exactly 4 feet deep, dry, ordinary brick. No water, no logbook. I know what I'm describing sounds impossible next to what your report says you found. I told you the water was gone by morning. It's always gone by morning. That's the pattern going back 60 years, and I have the folder to prove the pattern, even if I can't prove the room. The building board met 2 days after Mrs. Kessler was reported missing. They voted to relist 4B for rent that same week. I asked them to wait. They said the market doesn't wait. Tonight, I did the final walkthrough before the new tenant takes possession tomorrow morning. I repainted that corner myself this afternoon, sealed the seam, checked it twice with the meter. Bone dry. First time in 14 years it read completely dry. I was almost ready to believe it was over. I was locking the door behind me when I heard it start again behind the fresh paint. Slow, even, drip, drip. I turned around, and there were wet footprints on the hallway carpet, bare feet, leading away from 4B's door toward the end of the hall, toward the utility closet nobody's opened since before I worked here. They stopped right in front of it. I'm standing outside that closet right now while I give you this statement, Detective, and I can hear something on the other side, breathing, slow, waiting for me to open it. If you want to know what I find when I do, subscribe, because I'm not hanging up this phone.